The Democratic People's Republic of Korea was a land of ghosts, where the living moved as if already dead. In October 2025, Pyongyang's streets glittered with the facade of progress. Neon signs extolling the virtues of the supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, and monuments to the eternal Juche ideology. But beneath the surface, the nation was rotting. The famine of 2024 had left millions starving. Their bodies withered while the regime's elite feasted on smuggled luxuries. Dissent was unthinkable, yet it simmered in the hearts of those who dared to dream of freedom. In this crucible of despair, a spark was about to ignite. A group of conspirators, led by Colonel Han Min-soo, planned the unthinkable, a coup to topple Kim Jong-un during the Chuseok festival. Their plan was meticulous, their resolve unbreakable. But they didn't know that their fate would hinge on an outsider, a 10-year-old black boy named Malik Jones, whose courage would shake the foundations of a regime. Chapter 1. The seeds of rebellion. Colonel Han Min-soo stood in a derelict warehouse on the edge of Pyongyang, his breath visible in the chill October air. At 45, Han was a man forged by duty, his face lined with the weight of years spent enforcing the regime's will. As a high-ranking officer in the Korean People's Army, he had once believed in the DPRK's mission. But the famine had changed him. He had seen villages reduced to dust, children eating dirt to fill their bellies, while Kim Jong-un's propaganda machine churned out lies about prosperity. Han's loyalty had crumbled, replaced by a burning need for justice. Around him stood 12 conspirators, a motley coalition of defectors, soldiers, and civilians. Among them was Dr. Park Ji-yeon, a nuclear physicist whose brilliance had once served the regime's weapons program. Now 38, Park's hands trembled not from fear, but from guilt. She had seen the cost of her work. Cities held hostage by the threat of annihilation. In her satchel was a USB drive, its contents a ticking bomb, videos of mass executions, financial records of Kim's offshore accounts, and satellite imagery of hidden labor camps. If released, it could turn the world against the regime. "We strike on Chuseok," Han said, his voice steady despite the treason in his words. "The Supreme Leader will be at the Kumsusan Palace for the festival. The crowds will mask our movements. Lieutenant Kang takes the shot from the rooftop. We detonate explosives in the city center to sow chaos. Dr. Park, you'll broadcast the truth to the nation." The group nodded, their faces etched with determination. They knew the stakes. Failure meant not just death, but the annihilation of their families, their names erased from history. Yet they were driven by a shared vision of a North Korea free from tyranny. Unseen in the rafters, a small figure listened, his dark eyes wide with curiosity. Malik Jones, a 10-year-old black boy, was an anomaly in this monochrome world. His presence in North Korea was a cruel twist of fate, and his role in the coming storm would be nothing short of miraculous. Chapter 2. The Boy from Nowhere. Malik Jones was born in Chicago to Sarah Jones, an American aid worker, and Daniel Mwangi, a Kenyan diplomat. His life was one of privilege until 2023, when Sarah's humanitarian mission to North Korea ended in disaster. Accused of espionage, a charge fabricated to humiliate the West, Sarah was sentenced to a labor camp in the frozen North. Malik, only 8, was torn from her arms and sent to a state orphanage in Pyongyang, a propaganda stunt to show the regime's benevolence. The orphanage was a prison of despair. Malik, with his dark skin and foreign features, was a target for cruelty. Guards beat him for sport, and the other children, conditioned by fear, shunned him. Yet Malik was no ordinary child. His sharp mind and unyielding spirit kept him alive. He learned Korean in months, mimicking the guards' accents to blend in. He memorized their routines, noting which doors were left unlocked, which windows were unguarded. He discovered hidden passages in the orphanage's crumbling walls, using them to slip out at night, scavenging for food or eavesdropping on whispered secrets. One such secret led him to the warehouse. Malik had overheard two workers discussing a plan to end it all. Driven by a child's curiosity and a desperate hope for change, he followed cryptic clues, a scribbled map, a whispered address, until he found the conspirators' meeting place. Now, perched in the rafters, he listened as Han outlined the coup. His heart pounded. He didn't understand all the words, but he knew this was about fighting the people who had taken his mother. Chapter 3. The Betrayer's Whisper. The meeting ended, and the conspirators dispersed into the night. But one lingered. Captain Ri Yong-ho, a wiry officer with a nervous tic. Ri was Han's trusted deputy, but his loyalty was a lie. For months, he had been feeding information to the State Security Department, SSD, the regime's ruthless enforcers. The SSD promised Ri wealth and safety for his family if he betrayed the plot. As the others left, Ri slipped into a corner, pulling out a burner phone. "They move on Chuseok," he whispered to his handler. "Kumsusan Palace. All of them will be there." Malik, still hidden above, saw the call. His stomach churned. He had seen betrayal before. Children snitching for extra rice, guards selling secrets for favors. Ri's furtive glances confirmed his guilt. Malik waited until Ri left, then dropped silently to the floor, his small frame blending into the shadows. He followed Ri through Pyongyang's labyrinthine alleys, his bare feet silent on the cold pavement. Ri led him to a nondescript apartment block, where he met a man in a black suit, an SSD officer with a scar across his cheek. Malik hid behind a dumpster, straining to hear. "The Supreme Leader will be pleased," the officer said. "We'll let them think they've won, then crush them at the palace. No one escapes." Malik's mind raced. He had to warn Han, but how? The conspirators didn't know him, and he was just a child, a foreigner, no less. Returning to the orphanage was too dangerous. Ri might suspect a leak. Then he remembered Dr. Park's USB drive, mentioned during the meeting. She had said it was hidden in a safe house near the Taedong River. If Malik could get it, he could use it to expose the regime and stop the trap. Chapter 4. The River's Edge. The safe house was a crumbling shack by the Taedong River, its windows boarded, its door guarded by a single soldier. Malik waited in the shadows, his heart pounding. The guard was young, barely 20, his rifle slung carelessly over his shoulder. Malik watched as the guard lit a cigarette, the glow illuminating his bored expression. When the guard's head lolled in a doze, Malik crept forward, slipping through a gap in the boards. Inside, the shack was damp and cluttered with crates. Malik found the hollowed-out book Park had described, tucked behind a rusted stove. The USB drive was inside, small and unassuming, yet heavy with the weight of truth. As he pocketed it, the guard stirred, his cigarette falling to the floor. "Who's there?" he barked, drawing his pistol. Malik bolted, the guard's shouts echoing behind him. Bullets splintered the shack's walls as Malik dove through a window, landing hard on the riverbank. He sprinted through the reeds, the icy water soaking his legs. The guard fired again, one shot grazing Malik's shoulder, drawing a sharp cry. Blood seeped through his ragged shirt, but he didn't stop. He dove into the Taedong River, the current pulling him downstream as he clutched the USB. The guard radioed for backup, but Malik was already gone, carried by the river's dark embrace. He swam until his lungs burned, dragging himself onto a muddy bank miles away. Shivering and bleeding, he hid in a culvert, the USB safe in his shoe. He didn't know how to find Han, but he knew the coup was doomed unless he acted. Chapter 5. The Tunnels of Pyongyang. Chuseok was 2 days away, and Pyongyang was alive with preparations. Banners fluttered in the wind, proclaiming the glory of the Kim dynasty. The Kumsusan Palace, where Kim Jong-un would appear, was a fortress of marble and steel, guarded by elite troops. Han's team was ready. Lieutenant Kang, the sniper, had secured a rooftop perch. Explosives were planted in the city center, and Park was poised to hijack the state television network. But the SSD was ready too, their trap closing like a noose. Malik, battered but determined, remembered a rumor among the orphanage children, a network of tunnels beneath Pyongyang, built during the Korean War for spies and smugglers. If he could find them, he might reach Han without being caught. He scoured the riverbank until he found a storm drain, its grate rusted and loose. Squeezing through, he dropped into a dank tunnel, the air thick with mold. The tunnels were a maze, their walls slick with seepage. Malik's flashlight, stolen from the orphanage, flickered as he navigated the darkness. Rats skittered past, and once he stumbled over a skeleton, its bones brittle with age. Fear clawed at him, but he thought of his mother, her face fading in his memory. He had to keep going. After hours of wandering, he found an exit near the palace, marked by a faint glow of streetlights. He emerged in an alley, filthy and exhausted, just as Han's team gathered for a final briefing. Malik spotted Han adjusting a radio, his face tense. "Mister," Malik hissed, his Korean accented but clear. "It's a trap. They know everything." Han spun, his pistol raised, then froze at the sight of a child. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice sharp. "No time," Malik said, thrusting the USB at him. "The police are waiting. They'll kill you all. This has proof. Use it!" Han's eyes narrowed, but something in Malik's desperation convinced him. He grabbed the USB and radioed his team. "Abort the plan, it's compromised. Regroup at the safe house." But it was too late. The SSD had anticipated their moves. Sirens wailed, and black vans roared into the alley. Han shoved Malik behind a crate. "Stay down!" he barked, drawing his weapon. Chapter 6. The Battle of Kumsusan. The palace grounds erupted into chaos. SSD troops poured from the shadows, their rifles spitting fire. Han's team fought back, their smuggled weapons no match for the regime's firepower. Lieutenant Kang, positioned on a rooftop, took out 2 soldiers before a sniper's bullet tore through his skull. Explosions rocked the city center as the planted bombs detonated prematurely, killing civilians and rebels alike. Malik, crouched behind the crate, watched in horror as Han's team fell one by one. A young conspirator, a woman named Choi, screamed as a grenade shredded her legs. Han returned fire, his face grim, but a bullet caught him in the chest. He staggered, blood bubbling from his lips, and collapsed beside Malik. "Take it," Han gasped, pressing the USB into Malik's hand. "Find Park. Tell the world." Malik nodded, tears stinging his eyes. He grabbed Han's radio and ran, dodging bullets as he darted through the palace gardens. The SSD was relentless, their shouts echoing in the night. Malik's shoulder throbbed, but he pushed through the pain, his small size making him a difficult target. Chapter 7. The Broadcast Dr. Park. Ji-yeon sat in a van on the city's outskirts, her laptop connected to a satellite uplink. She had been monitoring the radio when Han's warning came through, followed by Malik's voice, a child's voice, raw with urgency. She plugged in the USB, her hands shaking as she opened the files. The screen filled with horrors, emaciated prisoners begging for mercy, mass graves in the mountains, Kim's lavish palaces juxtaposed with starving villages. It was worse than she'd imagined. As gunfire echoed in the distance, Park hacked into the state television network. The broadcast cut from a propaganda reel to the USB's footage. Her voice, steady despite her fear, narrated, "This is the truth of our nation. The supreme leader has betrayed us. Rise up, or we all perish." In Pyongyang's squares, where citizens gathered for mandatory screenings, The images sparked gasps and whispers. Soldiers hesitated, their loyalty shaken. In the palace, Kim Jong-un screamed at his aides, ordering the signal cut, but Park's hack was too deep. The broadcast spread to South Korea, then the world, carried by smuggled phones and underground networks. Chapter 8. The Child's Defiance. Malik, still in the palace gardens, knew he couldn't outrun the SSD forever. He saw Han's body, lifeless in the dirt, and felt a surge of rage. He wasn't just fighting for his mother now, he was fighting for everyone the regime had crushed. Spotting a statue of Kim Il-sung, he climbed its base, a stolen rebel flag in his hand. He waved it high, shouting, "Freedom! Freedom!" in Korean, his voice piercing the chaos. The SSD froze, stunned by the sight of a black child defying them. For a moment, the gunfire stopped, the soldiers unsure whether to shoot. That moment gave Park's broadcast time to spread, the images burning into the world's conscience. But the reprieve was brief. An SSD sniper took aim, and a single shot rang out. Malik fell, the flag slipping from his hands. Blood pooled beneath him, his small body still in the moonlight. The SSD advanced, but the damage was done. Park's broadcast had reached a Chinese satellite, ensuring the world would see the truth. Chapter 9. The Widow's Vow. In a labor camp in the frozen north, Sarah Jones toiled in a coal mine, her body frail but her spirit unbroken. Rumors reached the camp of a black boy who had defied the regime, his actions sparking chaos. Sarah knew it was Malik. She collapsed, sobbing, as the other prisoners tried to comfort her. "He was my son," she whispered, "my brave boy." Sarah vowed to survive, to escape, to tell Malik's story. She didn't know how, but she would find a way. His sacrifice would not be in vain. Chapter 10. The Smoldering Spark. The coup failed, its leaders dead or captured. Kim Jong-un's regime survived, but it was wounded. The broadcast had shaken the nation, planting seeds of doubt in even the most loyal. Protests erupted in South Korea, and the United Nations called for emergency sanctions. China, North Korea's ally, began to distance itself, wary of the growing unrest. Malik Jones became a legend, his name whispered in the shadows. The orphanage children spoke of him with awe, the boy who had stood against a god. In the years that followed, his story inspired small acts of defiance, graffiti on walls, smuggled pamphlets, secret meetings. The tragedy of Malik was that he was never meant to be a hero. He was a child, caught in a machine of cruelty, who chose to act when others faltered. His death was a spark, one that would smolder until North Korea's people found the courage to rise again.